That's better. Thanks everyone for coming. My name is Vladimir. I'm a senior product manager here at Salesforce, and I also happen to be a product manager for Custom Metadata Types and some other stuff that team is doing. Today, together with Carolyn, she's a lead engineer on the team, we're going to present some cool stuff about Custom Metadata Types. And here's a slide with our beautiful pictures. You can follow us on Twitter. There are Twitter tags over there. But before we start, I want to remind everyone about forward-looking statement, and that's a repetition for Dreamforce. You're going to see that slide a lot. Please do not make any purchasing decisions based on anything I promise you today. Base it only on the features that are currently available and released, and majority of the stuff we'll be talking today about is actually available today, and it's generally available. But some stuff, specifically stuff that Carolyn is going to cover, is just our plans for spring 18. So it's a next release. It's not even winter 18. So agenda for today, and I would like to start with a simple question of how many of you heard about custom metadata types? Okay, everyone heard about it. So maybe 50% of the room, 60% of the room, and how many of you actually used custom metadata types? Almost everyone who heard about it. So I think this session will be helpful for people who never heard about custom metadata types, for people who heard about custom metadata types but still haven't decided if they need or want to use it, or maybe they don't understand the benefits of it completely, and that would be a good demonstration for them. And also for people who used custom metadata types but might be not aware of all new cool stuff that we have available for them. And for those who super experts already in custom metadata types, they'll be just excited about stuff that we're bringing in spring 18. They can chill for next 20 minutes and then come back when Carolyn is speaking. Introduction to custom metadata types. And I've done this talk actually a couple of times in the past. I did similar topic at Trailhead DX. I spoke at Partner Call. I spoke in Paris for their French Touch Dreaming conference. So, and I always like to start with the fact that since the beginning, we released custom metadata types to GA about 2 years ago. We got a tremendous response from the community. And I just like to show off some quotes from Twitter. And it's take a development on the platform to a whole new level. Our biggest platform feature since Chatter. Godlike developer superpowers. And my favorite one, the holy freaking grail. And of course, we do not base the success of a feature just on tweets. Probably if we did, I would be promoted already to something like senior vice president, sort of. We based it on adoption. And up for today, we have over 200 million queries in production per day. So our top ISVs are using custom metadata types. I would say 8 or 7 top ISVs out of 10 using custom metadata types today. We have significant amount of production orgs that installed custom metadata types as part of a package, as part of their own development. And why? Why is it so cool? Because custom metadata types help you in 3 different areas, and it's installation, upgrades, and manageability. And there are a lot of text on this slide. I don't expect anyone to read it. It's just for you to be wow, and get excited and start Vladimir, what is custom metadata type? Tell us more about it. And if I only had the chance to show one slide today, this would be this slide. And when I started as a product manager, and I switched relatively recently, a little bit over a year ago, I started as an engineer at Salesforce, and I've been an engineer for all of my career pretty much. I sat together with Aaron, whom you might know from other meetings. He was a regional product manager on this team, and he was the records of custom metadata type are metadata, not data. And I was what? But at the end, this is the most important fact. Just remember that records of custom metadata types are metadata, not data. And I'll explain why it's so important. I'll be coming back to this slide multiple times through my presentation. So what types of objects do we have in Salesforce, anyone? Standard and? Yes, that's exactly the answer I'm looking for. And I'm glad that I heard it. It's not exactly right. I mean, it's right. But today, I want us to think differently. I want us to think about objects as data objects and metadata types, so metadata objects. And you can think about like data objects as those that are used by your business users, those that drive your business, that are used by your sales team, by your marketing team, by that guy in a cool office. And metadata types that are used by I think majority of you, by administrators, by admins, by developers. Those are used to do a configuration of your app. Those are not really visible to your users. They see results of those objects, but not really understanding that there is an object behind it. And if we look into even deeper, then we can separate between standard and custom. So we have standard data objects such as account, context, opportunity. So those objects are used to store business data, and it comes out of the box when you first sign up for dev work or first purchase a first license. And custom objects, and those you create. Like if Salesforce doesn't provide an object for invoice, you can go and create custom objects and use it. And then there are metadata types. And we not necessarily talk about standard metadata types, but in fact, validation rule is a perfect example of a standard metadata type. It defines the logic. It has nothing to do with your business data, but it defines how the business data being processed. And now, for 2 years, we have custom metadata types. And you can use those for things like stock point rules, warranty settings, international VAT rules, all the kind of switches, mappings, everything that you need to have in order to make your app running. And you might be asking like, well, aren't we already doing it with custom settings and custom objects? Like, why, well, like, don't we have enough idea on idea exchange? Why are you reinventing something and introducing a new type? Like, we have like address fields that haven't been addressed for 9 years. But if you ever used custom settings and custom objects, you know that the moment you need to package it, the only thing you can package is that definition. You cannot package any records. So every time you install that package, then somehow you need to populate those records in order for your app to start working. And if you're an ISV partner, it's pretty painful because like you want to give someone a demo and like, oh yeah, here's like you just install a package and like follow this 20-page manual or like run some Apex or import that CSV file and then it will be working. So it's painful. So remember I said records of custom metadata types are metadata, not data. So guess what? Because they are metadata, they can be packaged. So now you can package the record of custom metadata types together with a definition of custom metadata types. So you no longer need any post-deployment scripts, manual steps, or anything like that. You just package whatever you want to make a configuration and your app will be working out of the box without any extra steps. And if you're an ISV, we're talking about like sometimes thousands of works, you install a package. We've seen ISVs just simply removed like 10,000, 100,000 of Apex code. They simplified their cost of support of that app dramatically by just switching to custom metadata types. And for those of you who might not be like, okay, I'm not an ISV, what do I have to do with that? Well, if you work in sort of like comprehensive org, or like if your company is big enough, you still deal with deployments between different types of environments. You have some development org, you might have some pre-production orgs like staging, testing environments, all sorts of things where you need to push your app through before it hits the production. And every time you push it through, you have to do those manual steps, those scripts, those post-deployment things. So you're still doing the same things that ISV is doing, just on a smaller scale. And with custom metadata types, it's all simplified. So, and because it's metadata, because you can package it, you can use it with Salesforce DX, you can use it with source control, You can use it in managed and unmanaged packages. You can use it even in change sets. Admins love custom metadata types. Change sets, I really like to quote Cheryl Feldman. You know her, she's like on a login page every time you go to Salesforce. She's like, I built my career on Salesforce, kind of quote. So she was like, oh, I'm just trying custom metadata types today for first time, and I'm gonna push it through change sets. Anything I should be aware of? And I was like, hopefully not. It worked fine. She's a big fan and supporter. She actually was here in headquarters like a few months ago, just presenting with me about why custom metadata types is such a good thing for admins. Because the admins are those people who are doing those post-deployment scripts for you. And they love custom metadata types because now they have less work to do. They can focus on on other stuff. So if you're not yet sold on the idea of using custom metadata type the moment you walk out of this room, I have more stuff for you to show. So here we have a list, side-by-side comparison between list custom settings, custom objects, and custom metadata types. So first of all, you have unlimited calls, same as custom settings. You can retrieve and deploy records, which we already talked about. In addition to that, we provide way more comprehensive set of fields we support. We support pick list, we support long text area fields, we support relationship fields on custom metadata types. Those are not available on custom settings. And we provide a way more comprehensive and complex security model. So with custom settings, the only thing you can do, you can hide your custom setting completely. With custom metadata types, you can address it on a record level, on a field level, and I'm going to talk about it in more details. And for those of you who used custom metadata types in the past, one of the biggest complaints and gaps was, I cannot do anything with custom metadata types from Apex. So it's available now. Check out a new Apex metadata API. This is a new feature that we already released in GA. Up for today, it supports 2 metadata types. It allows you to manipulate records of custom metadata types. And in addition to that, it allows you to manipulate layouts. So you can deploy your package and add that new field to any layouts you want. So no more extra steps for admins to add fields that came from your package. Check it out. Yeah, and I kind of went through it already. Let's talk about field editability. So as I said, custom metadata types provide you way more complex approach to how you control who and what can be editable. So you have 3 options. You can make field locked, means once package is installed, no one can change value in that field. You can make it upgradable, meaning that you can only change it through package upgrade. Or you may leave it subscriber editable, meaning that your subscriber can modify that value and your upgrade package would not override it. And when we talk about individual records, because they are metadata, and I'm coming back to that slide again, you can build a pretty complex model here. And first of all, you can have unmanaged records, those that have been created by a subscriber. So they're completely subscriber editable. Then you have protected managed records. Those can be only upgraded with a package. And then the most powerful, I think, is public managed records. And example I like to give is let's say your app relies on access to 2 different APIs. One API is defined on the side of a subscriber, and one API is defined on the side of developer. And both of them require security token, let's say. You want to make sure that subscriber cannot modify security token. Oh, we just lost one of the screens. They're back. That subscriber cannot modify the security token for your API, but you want to leave him a chance or her a chance to modify a token for their own API. So in this way, you make one API key be upgradable and another one is subscriber editable. And you can have that pretty complex thing built in just out of the box. And I was going to show a demo, but I'm a lucky owner of a new MacBook Pro that doesn't have any ports except USB-C. And even Salesforce supplies them, they haven't supplied us any adapters, and the only adapter I had happened not to work, of course, because that's what you expect to happen during the demo. So I'm going to show some screenshots. Pretty embarrassing. And an example I give, let's say you're building a quick app that you have an invoice, and the invoice is going to different states. And you have a price before tax, and you want to calculate the price after tax. And we're going to use custom metadata types. So I have my invoice object. This is a custom object. I build at list view where I can see what state it's going, what price is before tax. So, and I also have my custom metadata type that you can find under custom metadata types, custom code, called state sales tax. And it stores information about each state sales tax. It's, of course, it's oversimplifying the tax system in the United States. But when you look there into definition of custom metadata types, the one thing I like to point is, I don't know if I can point, that button called Manage State Sales Taxes, which gives you an access to the list of all the records you have. So now you have all the list of records, like I only created 2 for California and Idaho, and I can go and set up a tax rate for each of those states. So now what I have here is a simple, sorry for, it's not really readable, simple Apex controller for my Visualforce page. And I retrieve using Sockle, I query the custom metadata type called state sales tax underscore MDT, and that suffix for custom metadata types. Unlike custom objects, it's not underscore C. And I map it with whatever state that tax rate I need to retrieve. And that's a query. And with that, I can build a Visualforce page that will show me something like that. So now I have a price before tax and price after tax, which I'm able to calculate by querying a Sockle for custom metadata types. And cool thing is now when I want to create a package, in my list of components, I can find a thing called state sales tax. Because it's a metadata type, for each custom metadata type you create, you will see a new record, a new item in that list. And I can see list of records, and I can specifically add particular records into the package. So not only I can package the definition of custom metadata types, but I can simply say I only want to package California record. So because I know that org only works in California, or for some other reasons, maybe that's not the best example. But you can actually select what records you want to package, what records you want to bring with your upgrade package, let's say. And then I can leave a state tax as a subscriber editable, which allows subscriber to go and modify a state rate if, like, let's say tomorrow California decides to increase our sales taxes. So there was a small demo on screenshots, and as I promised, so by now we covered the part that is interesting for people who never use custom metadata types, for people who maybe heard about it but never really used, and now we're going to talk about some cool features that we have for more advanced people who are already in touch with custom metadata types. And those are custom metadata types relationship. So what type of relationships we support? They're quite different, and we support 3 different types. It's a relationship to another custom metadata type. It's a relationship to entity definition, and a relationship to field definition. And because records of custom metadata types are metadata, the relationships are also points to metadata, not to particular data records. And let me give you some examples. So let's say we'll look into a relationship between 2 metadata types. In my example, I just elaborate a little bit on the tax example. So state tax is my sales tax based on my state tax and my county tax. So now I have 2 custom metadata types. One for my county tax, city tax, it actually should be county tax, and one for my sales tax. And I have a relationship between them, so I know that California points to that California record. So I can, traverse and calculate the final tax based on what state, what county I'm buying things from. And if we're talking about a relationship to entity definition, here's an example. Let's say your org, your company have a specific SLAs for review time of when new account comes, or when new lead comes, or a new invoice, which is a custom object, comes. So this way I have a relationship to a specific entity definition. So in my relationship, I point not to a single account record, I point to account as a definition, or invoice as a definition of custom object, and then in my code I can operate with those things. And if I extend it to field definition, I can build something like, let's say I want to build a default value for my source, for my referral source. So when a new account comes, I know that I need to look at account entity, find an account field definition called account source, and put a web as a default there. And when it comes to my custom object, I'm looking into custom object definition of referral __ C. And I'm looking for a definition of the field called source __ C. And can I operate and put internal there as a value, just as an example. So that was my part for tonight. And with that, I want to transfer microphone to Carolyn. And she's going to talk about exciting new features that come in Spring 18 and in further releases. And it's a support for custom metadata types in declarative tools.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Ooh, I get to click. Awesome. My name is Carolyn Grabill. I am a lead developer on the team that owns Custom Metadata Types. I am going to make hella forward-looking statements today. This stuff is so hot off the presses, it's not even off the presses. It's still on the press. So that means that my demo is also screenshots, but I promise that it's screenshots of things that are actually working. These are not mock-ups. They're real, I promise. So we have promised custom metadata types and declarative tools. And the declarative tool in particular is validation rule formulas. You're going to be able to reference custom metadata type records in validation rule formulas. And why are we doing this? Wow, that was that was counterintuitive. Oh, I get to hit. Oh, magic. Why are we doing this? We're under attack. We are being held hostage until the evil admin gets access to custom metadata types and declarative functionality. But I'm totally on board with it because I think this is really important. I think that custom metadata types are so powerful that to make them only accessible in Apex is doing a disservice to all the admins who totally know how to do validation rules and formula fields and workflow rules and flows and everything, but aren't yet writing Apex triggers or classes. So we want to expose this powerful functionality to declarative admins also. So for my demo, let me set up the situation, what we want. Does anyone not know what a validation rule is? Not a single hand. Awesome. You guys are awesome devs. So what I want to have happen in my organization, this organization is a paper company. They're selling paper. Their salespeople use opportunity products, and sometimes they need to add a discount to make that sale. But we don't want to let them add too big of a discount. So we want to put a maximum value on that discount field, and if they enter a value that's too high, they get an error message. Fairly straightforward. You can totally do that with a validation rule right now. In fact, it's so standard that that's been the example validation rule forever, that if you say the discount is greater than a certain %, then they get an error. And you could totally do that right now, but what's the problem with this? Like, why isn't this ideal? I'll take answers from the audience. Yeah. It's hard-coded, exactly. As developers, we know we don't want this. We can do better. So we want to reference, instead of hard-coding 0.25 in this validation rule, we want to reference it from a custom metadata type instead. So first I have to have created a custom metadata type. I called mine discount limit. It has a custom field called max discount. It's a % field. And then I created one record, just one, in this discount limit custom metadata type. And I set the max discount field to 25%, the same as I had in my validation rule. Now, instead of hard coding 0.25, I can reference that custom metadata type in the validation rule. And that is hard to see. Let me make it bigger. So instead of 0.25, now we have discount is greater than $custom metadata dot discount limits __ MDT dot default dot max discount __ C. Isn't that simpler? Let's talk about the formula syntax. First, you'll start with $custom metadata, the constant, to let you know, hey, a custom metadata reference is about to happen. dot custom metadata type API name, dot record API name, dot field API name. See, it is simple. When you have the custom metadata type, you need to use its underscore underscore MDT suffix. Records don't have any suffix. And field API names need the underscore underscore C value. If you're referencing a type that has a namespace, or a record that has a namespace, or a field that has a namespace, you can also prefix in that namespace. So if I have installed a package that has a custom metadata type, as a subscriber, I can write validation rules that reference those installed records, or records that I added to those installed types. But if that's still too complicated, it's also available in the insert field dialog. So you'll be able to find the $custom metadata constant, find all of the custom metadata types you have available in your org, find the record that you want, and then find the field on that record you want. It'll copy in that long string into your validation rule formula. And ta-da! Now the salespeople can't put too high of a discount on it. That's a really simple explanation of this, but that's kind of a simplistic view of how an org works, because there's not going to be just one max discount. Why would there be? So for this organization, they sell paper, they sell different kinds of paper, and they want to have different max discounts for different kinds of paper. How could we accomplish that, you ask? I added some more records to my discount limits custom metadata type. This org sells office paper, and they also sell like paper towels and toilet paper, janitorial paper, and they want to be able to discount their janitorial paper much higher than their office paper. So I set the max discount for the janitorial paper to 50% and office paper to only 10. So we want to reference all of these custom metadata records in a single validation rule formula. We can do that with a case statement. And a case statement, if you haven't written a lot of validation rule formulas, is like a switch in Java or a big if-else block. Let me make that bigger so it's easier to read, and we can go through that. So this validation rule fires if the discount is greater than, if the product's family is office paper, then, let's see, if I use the mouse, can you see it? No, you can't. Awesome. So if the product's family is office paper, we reference the office paper discount limits record. If the family is janitorial, we reference the janitorial record. So I've made one record for each value in that family pick list. And then in my validation rule, I map that pick list value to the record. And then in the default case, I have my default max value. So now, if the discount is only 20%, it's still too high because it's over 10%, which matches this product's family. I have this on an opportunity product. The other great thing about this feature is that you can reuse the same custom metadata records in different validation rules. So if I also have order products, and that transition is so subtle, but now it's an order product, you can have those same values used in more than one place in your organization. If it ever changes in the future, you only have to change it in one location, which I think as developers is what we all really want. Let me talk about the roadmap for a quick second. This is going to be available in pilot in spring 18. We're looking at support for normal custom formula fields and default values in summer 18. We do have some limitations. We do support normal validation rules on custom metadata types themselves, but you're not going to be able to have a reference to custom metadata in a validation rule on a custom metadata type, because that creates some interesting circular dependencies when you go to upgrade your packages. And then you also currently can't have a reference to a relationship field in a custom metadata type record reference in a validation rule formula. For now, we're going to do it right. And then I'm going to hand it back to Vlad to call you to action.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, I invite everyone to check out the custom metadata types trailhead modules that we have available. It's pretty cool. Good news is that Epic's metadata API trailhead is coming, and it should be released before. Shouldn't touch anything here. And it should be released before Dreamforce, so you will have a chance to complete and get your badge before Dreamforce and impress everyone there. There's some blog posts, and we have a success group for both Apex metadata and custom metadata types. So please join both of them. If you have any questions, we all there. We monitor it pretty closely, and we usually pretty responsible with answers. And again, join us on Twitter, and it's just me and Carolyn. There are also other engineers there. And I actually want to take a short second and introduce some other people here, because we pretty much have the whole team today. And I would like to start with Avram. Avram was here from the beginning. So he's actually the person who invented custom metadata types. So we have Asha. She has been on the team for quite a while too. Not as long as Avram, but she's been in charge and helped to deliver a lot of cool features that we were able to present today. And she's now actually engineering manager for the team, which is cool. And we have Mason, who just joined the team this release. So he's also helping to deliver some of the stuff that Carolyn promised you. So if we will not deliver, it's totally his fault.
I'll try.
So, and with that, Dreamforce session. We have a pretty good selection of Dreamforce session, and I invite everyone to join at least some of them. There are a couple sessions on custom metadata types. We are not doing any of those. They're completely customer driven. I think there's one by Financial Force, and I forgot what company is presenting another one. And there's 3 sessions on a new Apex metadata API. So if you can find time to attend at least one of them, I think it will be super cool and helpful. My plan is to attend all of them, and if you want to connect during Dreamforce, that's probably the best way to find me. I'll be somewhere in the audience helping people to tackle some questions. And with that, finally, thank you. And it's time for a Q&A if you have any questions. Thank you. And I think we should pass the microphone around.
Yeah.
For the custom metadata type, when you have the case select, is it possible to actually pass the case, the individual case in as a parameter and have a value returned or not?
Not yet. You could totally do that in an Apex trigger, though, which I realize is defeating the point. But that's how you could accomplish that kind of functionality right now.
Another example, is it possible, for example, you may have parameters that apply between a date range and pass in a date range, and it would return a value that is applicable between a certain date range, and if that date range isn't defined, it will return the default.
I don't see why not. I'm looking at it wrong for confirmation.
I'm trying to make sure I understand the question correctly. So the date range is on the record being validated, or on the metadata record?
Let's say there's a value that's only going to hold between a certain period of time. So when you're evaluating what metadata result you need to return, it's only applicable within a certain date range.
Right. Right now in formulas, the only kinds of references we allow are pretty static references. So you actually, to make the reference, you have to know the name of the metadata record you want. Obviously, if you're doing like SOAP queries in Apex for feature metadata, you have a lot more flexibility. At some point in the future, we'd like to allow some kind of dynamic references, but in the short term, it's you need to refer to the record by name to get the values from the record.
I assume you can put this on like price books, and this would work really well for variable pricing.
Yeah, so everywhere you can put a validation rule, it will work. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and
really beautiful.
yeah, as Carolyn said, also our plan is to support it for formula fields, so you can reference in the formula fields, process builders, default values, like on, let's say, on pick lists.
You can also do it in forecasting?
I will need to check, because I'm not sure how exactly forecasting using the formula engine. But if there is any sort of formula engine that's similar to what we do in validation rules, I assume that that's something that we will be able to support in the future.
Yeah, I have to, but I'm not a...
Yeah.
I just wanted to verify clarify. So am I correct that you still have, the admin is still the person who defines the discounts? So you can't delegate to a sales manager or like sales?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Or it would have to be someone who has permission to create the custom metadata records and the validation rules. You could give your managers that permission if you want them instead of doing that.
But
Yes, they would also be able to do a lot more with that too, probably.
So you could use the metadata support from Apex to generate a visual force page that just gives an access to that.
Actually, that won't either because the deployment from Apex does require the ability to deploy metadata. So the end user still needs to.
yeah, but one I think positive thing is, let's say you changing your discount quite often, and if before you would have to ask your admin, and admin will have to go and change like 20 different places, at least now it's a one page where admin goes and updates all the discounts at once.
Maybe also worth noting about this is the packaging case. So if you make a validation formula and you're a developer of a package, validation formulas are developer controlled, so your subscribers cannot customize your formula directly. However, if you have it referring to a custom metadata record and you make the particular field on the record subscriber controlled, then you have a way for customer admins to sub in values into your formula if you want to do that.
Yeah. Sorry.
So are the records of custom metadata visible to tests without CL data?
Yes.
And I think we have a question here.
Do we have any engine to provide duplication or prevent duplication or uniqueness?
Of custom metadata
Yes.
records, they do have to have a unique developer name,
Yep.
but it's not like account dedupe. You don't have that yet.
Make any field you want unique.
Oh yes, they do support unique field properties on the custom fields themselves.
And
Including, and this is a little unusual, relationship fields. So for example, if you want to say that every object...
Should I just let you keep this?
Oh, sorry, no. I'll pass it back. But for example, if you want to say that every entity definition can have at most one related custom metadata record, you can actually make that relationship field unique. And then people won't be able to make two different metadata records related to the same entity.
And I think another thing is that you can have a validation rule on a custom metadata type field. So you can validate what admins enter in any field. So like let's say you wanna make sure that the admin does not add a discount greater than 100% into custom metadata type record that later is referenced by some other field. So you can add the validation rule there.
Metadata.
Yeah.
I had a question. Is there some form of auditing, like if every time the value changes for that, is there an audit way or audit?
Yes, so I actually forgot to mention it, but because records of custom metadata types and metadata, you can see all the changes in audit trail. So every time someone modifies a record of custom metadata types, you'll see an audit trail log for that. Yeah, and it was on that table, but I skipped it, sorry. And 1, 2, oh, okay.
Does this custom metadata comes under like object limits?
Yes. Yeah, so I'm not prepared. And actually, I should update the slide. But you can have up to 100 custom metadata types per org. And there's a limit on how much data, and actually this is not 10 megabytes is not the correct limit, and we just talked about it recently that it's at 10 million.
10 million characters.
10 million
yeah, so you can have a
characters.
10 million characters per in all of your records of custom metadata types.
And that's going by the definition of the field, how many characters can be on the field.
Yeah.
So if you say your data has a 30 character field, we're going to count that as 30 even if the data itself only has 1 or 2 characters.
Is there any roadmap for moving the global limits to a per package?
How close are you to the limit?
Well, you never
you never know, like if you're developing a managed package,
Yeah.
what the customer's already got, maybe they can't install your package because they've already got 90 and you've got 20 or something.
We definitely have it on the roadmap. It's not on the nearest roadmap, but at some point I think, hopefully this, like 2018 year, we will be able to at least justify some of those limits and see if there's any possible increase based on performance and stuff.
We'll probably need some global limit, but there's a good chance we'll be able to make the global limit much higher.
Yeah.
And just leave 100 as the per package limit.
That's why we keep asking, like, are you near it? We're looking for, like, who is near it? Who's made it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't maxed
There'll be a
that
trophy.
one. We still have plenty of room on that one. I have another different question. So you showed an example using custom metadata types for the entity field relationship.
Yeah.
We've done this, and a lot of other ISCs have done this. We've actually put the object and field names just like in a custom setting or a custom object. And you don't get validation and things like that when you do that. But what are some of the other benefits of using a custom metadata type to reference a field versus, like, do you get any UI to select it or any other benefits instead of just jamming it into a text
Well,
field somewhere?
when you use a relationship versus text field, first of all, like, there's no problem with that if you misspell that account with one C, because it works as a lookup field, right?
So you get the UI too.
Yeah, you get the UI where you can select entity and you can select the field. So
If it's a relationship to another custom metadata type, it looks like a lookup UI. If it's a relationship to entity or field, it looks like drop-downs. But you have a drop-down where you can select an entity, and if you have another relationship to a field, you have a dependent drop-down where after you select the entity, you can select a field. And that's kind of out-of-the-box UI.
And if the entity name changes, they're still good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
yeah. There's a question up there.
Can we refer this as a global variable like VM page? Like I just saw like a dollar custom metadata she was referring on there.
In Spring 18, in validation rule formulas, yes, you can reference them as though they are global, as long as you have access to them, yes.
Okay, like that we cannot refer from VM pages.
You can query for them in SOQL and then reference them that way in Visualforce.
Oh,
I think we did it.
yay! Thank you very much.